we are actually on business rules. BR stands for business rule. So BR stands for business rule, guys. So here, right, what exactly you guys have to remember? Remember one thing, when exactly this business rules will run is that this business rules will run, these business rules will run every time after the form submission. Let me just navigate to my personal developer instance. Suppose we have actually major issue record, right? After submission of the major issue record, after submission of the major issue record, this business rules will run. So this business rules will run. So you will fill the values, caller value, affected caller, CI, category, subcategory, short description, description. You will fill in all the field values. After filling in the field values, you will submit, right? After the form submission, the business rules will be triggered. So after the form submission, the business rules will be triggered, guys. Looks like my instance is actually in hibernation mode. Okay.
Sir, Uday sir, morning.
Yeah, hi Nishant.
Sir, we have not received the video of those yesterday and day after yesterday, sir.
That admin will be back today.
Okay.
Maybe. See, she is actually going on
The-
vacation every now and then. That is the reason you are actually seeing some challenges. Because my part is actually I'll be completing the training, and then so I have to take care of my work as well, right? So I am busy in my work. So that is the reason I'm actually not able to share the videos with you guys.
No issues.
Okay.
So
So
those
now,
all
right?
videos will be added on the drive, right? It is
Yeah,
not
yeah,
yet done. Okay.
yeah. All videos will be added on the drive. Okay. So here, right? So the instance is not actually up and running. So in the meantime, so consider this is actually major issue form. On the major issue form, you are filling in caller, short description, description, affected caller, category, subcategory. After which you are actually submitting the form. After which you are actually submitting the form. Once you submit the form, right, these business rules will be run. So there are actually four types of business rules, guys. There are actually four types of business rule. One is before business rule, after business rule, async business rule, and display business rule. Okay. So remember one thing, there are actually four types of business rules. These business rules will be run every time whenever you submit the form. So you will fill all the details, you will submit the form, right? After the form submission, the business rules will be run. So after the form submission, the business rules will be run. So here, right, here we have actually um, before business rule, after business rule, async business rule, and display business rule. So here you guys have to remember one thing. You guys have to remember one thing particularly. So whatever the details that you fill in, right? Whatever the details that you fill in, right? Caller, affected caller, short description, description value, all these values should store in the database. After the form submission, these values should store in the database. This is actually the database. Okay. So after submitting the form, these values should be stored in this database. This is actually the database. All the caller value, short description, all these values will be stored in this database. So before the values get stored in the database, the before business rule will run. Do you guys understand? Do you guys understand or not?
Yeah. So before storing the data on the database, business rule has to run, right?
Yeah. See, no, here, right? You will fill in all the details. You will
Hmm.
submit the form. After the form submission, all these values should be stored in ServiceNow database, right?
Correct.
So here, before the values get stored in the ServiceNow database, this before business rule will run. One of the types of business rules will run
Okay.
just before the database operation. Hope you understand.
So before is one of the business rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So once you submit the form, the before business rule will run. After running that before business rule, the data will get stored in the database. Okay. Does it make sense to you, everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So after submitting the form, the before business rule will run and the data will get stored in the database. So once the data gets stored in this database, that means all the color value, affected color, short description, all the values are stored in this database. After the data gets stored in the database, this after business rule and async business rule both will run. Do you guys understand?
Okay. Which one will run first at the same time?
Say both will run same time.
Okay.
So here, right, after submitting the form, before the data get inserted into the database or updated into the database, this before business rule will run. Once the data get inserted or updated into this database, this after business rule and async business rule both will run at a time. Okay. So now we have actually display business rule. So how exactly onload client script will run, guys? How exactly onload client script will run? Can any one of you guys tell me how exactly onload client script will run?
At the time of creation, the for example case, right? When we open the form at that time, correct? It will be.
So every time when you load the form, every time when you load the form, the onload client script will run. The same way, every time when you load the form, the display business rule will run. So the display business rule is actually server side script, but onload client script is actually client side script. Hope this is clear for you guys.
Download.
So onload client script is actually a client side scripting. So display business rule is actually a server side scripting. So this will run every time when you load the form. Okay. So we have actually four types of business rules. So after form submission, the before business rule will run before the data get inserted into the database. And after the data get inserted into this database, the after business rule and async business rule will run. So when it comes to the display business rule, this will run every time when you load the form.
Okay.
Okay.
So for example, I am creating the case. So
Okay. Okay.
so there on client side, it will be the onload script, client side API, client side scripting, right? And at the same
Yeah.
time, from the server side, it will be the display business rule, right? From the
Yeah.
server side. So, for example, we have the all the label names, right, on the form. So the
Hmm.
purpose of display is to show that those label names on the form, right? Probably.
No, no, no. See, display business rule is actually purpose is different. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
But I'm actually telling you now that display business rule will run every time when you load the form.
Okay, fine.
So I'm actually telling you the triggering conditions.
Hmm.
So you will submit the form, you will submit the major issue form, the before business rule will run. And after running this before business rule, the data insertion or updation will happen. So after that, after business rule, once the data get inserted or updated into this database, after business rule and async business rule will run. This will run every time when you load the form. So here I have to tell you one thing here. Suppose you have filled color value, you have filled a description value. So you have filled the color value, description value. So here, right, you haven't filled the short description value. See, you filled the color value, short description value. You filled the color value and description value. You did not fill short description value. So you can fill the short description value in the before business rule, and you can actually update the data into the database. So color value, short description value, these three values will get stored in the database. Understand? See, after the form submission, before the data get inserted before the data get inserted into this database, if you want to do modification, any modification, you can do modifications using before business rule. Is it clear or not?
But who is running this business rule? It will be from backend, right?
Yeah, it is from backend.
So we are saying I have submitted the form, but one of the attribute I have not, one of the field I have not filled, but form is submitted. So whenever I am submitting that form, it will run the business rule, right? And again, if I am going to update something at that time also
You
before
can
business,
update using before business rule. You can update that.
so that operation will be the update operation, right? Later stage.
Yeah, yeah,
So for the submission and even for the update before business run will work, and that is correct logic only, right? Because the purpose is
yeah.
that
So you
we
will
want
be
to
understand. You will be able to understand the things clearly if I give you some examples. Okay.
no problem. Okay.
Yeah. So we have actually before business rule, after business rule, async business rule, and display business rule. So you see here we have to understand this database concept. So the data finally will get stored in this database. Before the database, before business rule will run. After the database, after and async business rules will run. Okay. Now we will actually go here. So now the instance is actually up and running. We'll go to our major issue form. Okay. So here, right, you will go to major issue form. Okay. So in the major issue form, right, I am not filling any values here. I'm not filling any values. So I am actually duplicating this record. Okay. So right click, configure business rules. You'll go to business rules here. So you'll just click on new here. Okay. See here, you will actually provide the business rule name here. Here you will actually provide the business rule name. Okay. So the business rule name is actually update details before database operation. Okay. So here, right, by default, you will be able to see when to run and actions. So majority of the time you will be clicking on advanced checkbox. When you click on advanced checkbox, you will be able to see advanced tab here. So, so here in the advanced tab, here in the advanced tab, you will be you are supposed to write the script here. You are supposed to write the script here, guys. Okay. So in the when to run, here you will be able to see how many types of business rules here. We have before business rule, after business rule, async business rule, and display business rule here. So we have how many types of business rules here? Before business rule, after async and display business rule here. So before will run just before the database operation. After will run just after the database operation. Async business rule will run just after the async business rule. Display business rule will run every time when you load the form. Okay. So here, right, we have actually before business rule. Okay. So here we have actually operations. These are actually called operations. Insert operation, update operation, delete operation, and query operation. Okay. So we have actually insert operation, update, delete, query operations here. Okay. Insert. So before creating the data into the database.
Insert, right?
Yeah, before insert. Insert means creation, update means updation, delete means deletion, query means querying the records. So what am I going to do is I am not filling the color here. I am not actually filling the color here. So I am also not filling the caller email as well. So these details I am going to fill in using before business rule. That means here what exactly I will do is I will not fill the color here on the form. I will fill the color here in the before business rule. And after the form submission, this before business rule will run. I will set the value of the color. I will store the details in the database. Do you guys understand?
Can you still repeat, please? A little slow. Just
Hello.
can you just repeat that last one?
See, what exactly you will do is you will actually fill the color value. You will not fill the color value on the form.
Okay.
So you will fill the color value using before business rule. You will fill the color value using before business rule. Okay.
At what time it is required to fill that color information?
So what time it is required?
At what time? Suppose I am loading the one form and I'm not filling the color information, right? Correct. That is that what you mentioned, correct?
No,
I'm
I'm
creating
actually
one.
telling you. I'm actually telling you that I am not filling in the color value here.
Okay.
So I am not filling the color value here in the form. So
Hmm.
what am I doing is I'm actually filling the color value using before business rule.
Okay.
After you submit the form, you will run the before business rule, right?
Okay.
This
Got it.
before business rule will be ran. So using this before business rule, I'm actually setting the color value and updating the color value in the database.
Got it. So we are writing the script to fill the value of the color, and that is using the before.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Yes. So I'm actually going to the user table. Okay. So here, right, we have actually seen how many types of business rule, how many operations are there. This is actually the condition. So if you want to run the business rule based on the role you have, if you want to run the business rule, you can actually use this business rule. Okay. So here, right in the advanced section, you will be writing the scripts. So here we have actually primarily two objects. One is current object, another one is previous object. what is current object and what is previous object. So current object will hold the current form field values, as we already know. Current object will hold current form field values. Previous object will hold previous values. Suppose if you have actually Abraham Lincoln here, Abraham Lincoln is actually the current value. So now after Abraham Lincoln, I'm actually selecting able tutor here. So now Abraham Lincoln will become the old value, able tutor will become the current value. So Abraham Lincoln will become the previous value and able tutor will become the current value. Do you guys all understand?
So ServiceNow will recognize that, right? Because we are not doing any submit and something, right? Still, ServiceNow will recognize that previous value, right?
Yes, ServiceNow will actually recognize that previous value.
Why I'm asking, because we have not done any submit where the data can be uploaded, right?
Yeah. So current object will actually hold the current values. Previous object will hold the previous values.
But sir, in the field, we will use only one one attributes, na? Yeah, one field name, yeah, one person, na? We can't use two.
Yeah. Suppose you have actually selected able tutor, right? Able tutor will actually the current
Current
value.
value. Yes.
So if you are changing it to system administrator, so able tutor will become the previous value and the current value will actually the system administrator. Do you all guys understand? Hello.
Understood. Understood.
Okay. So current object will actually hold current values, previous object will hold previous values. So now, right, I am actually filling in the caller value using current dot u underscore caller is equal to the sysID of the caller. I have actually taken the sysID of the Gautam. So I'm actually taking the sysID of the Gautam. So here, right, I'm actually placing Gautam sysID here. So now, right, what exactly I have done? I have actually created a business rule, which is actually before business rule. So which is actually before business rule. So this will run before insertion. That means before creation. So now this is actually a new record, right? I am not filling any caller value here. I am just trying to save this one. So let me just refresh this one, guys, because the business rule should get effect, right? I am going to save this one. See, did I fill Gautam value here? Hmm? Did I fill Gautam value here, guys?
No, sir.
So how exactly this value is filled? How exactly this value is filled? So after the form submission, this business rule has run. So inside this business rule, right, we are actually setting the caller value as Gautam. Is it clear? And now the details are stored in the database. That is why you are actually, if you refresh this one, the values are stored in the database. See, now the value is there in the caller field. Hello.
This Gotham and we came. It this Gotham and we should not go to the database before the database before business rule will run.
Yeah, before this database, this before business rule will run. Here using before business rule, we are actually setting the caller value as Gautam. So
So
you are not filling the caller here. You are just submitting the form. After the form submission, this before business rule is running. After this before business rule, what exactly are we doing here is we are actually filling the caller value as Gautam. We are setting the caller value as Gautam and we are actually updating the details in the database.
So, sir, will you show us that this Gotham has not been updated in the database? Can we see this?
Opening,
I didn't get.
later on after opening that form, we are getting that value of color, right? That means that value is coming from the database.
No. Before the database been updated by the name of Gautam, before business rule will run.
So that
Am I
will
right?
run at the time of submit only, right? Before scripting. So
So clear, clear.
Yes, sir. Clear.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Okay. Mm, yeah. So now, right? Let us say I'm actually deactivating this business rule. I'm actually deactivating this business rule. I am going to create another business rule. So the business rule is actually before business rule. So I am actually creating a business rule here. Okay. So this time I'm actually selecting advanced here. So before insert or update, both operations I'm selecting. So here, right, my requirement is, so if you are actually while creating the major issue record, if you are not filling in the color, if you are not filling in the color, the details will not be stored in the database. I'm actually stopping the details at the before business rule itself. You guys are able to understand? Hello?
Please come again, sir, please.
Yeah, sure. So my requirement is, I'm actually opening a new form here. So you are actually filling in all the details here. You are filling in affected caller. So you are filling in affected caller, major issue task, assignment group, and assigned to. So you are filling in all these details here. So while after the submission, right? After the submission, the before business rule will run, right? In the before business rule, I am actually checking whether the caller field is actually filled in or not. If the caller value is filled, if the caller field is actually filled, only then I will actually allow them to submit the data into database. If the caller value is not filled, I will actually stop the data processing and say like caller is actually mandatory field. So here, right, caller value is there or not, I have to check. In the before business rule, I have to check caller value is there or not. Okay. So here, right, what exactly we will do is we will actually check whether the collar is empty or not. If the collar is empty in the before business rule, we will use current dot set about action true. So this will actually stop the stop the database operation. This will actually stop the data get stored into the database. So I'm actually submitting this business rule. So here, right, you will actually keep a info message. Okay. So now, right, you are not filling in the collar, you are actually filling in all other details. So you are going to save this one. So you are going to save this one. So now, do you guys think the data will get stored in the database? So what exactly it says? Invalid insert, collar is mandatory to save the data in database. So now the details are not stored in the database. Now these details are not stored in the database. Invalid insert. Do you guys understand or not?
Yeah, father was penetrated.
See, I have actually filled these values, right? I am trying to save this one without providing collar. So what exactly it says? So it says invalid insert. That means record is not created in database. So invalid insert, the collar is mandatory to save the data in database. So that means I am actually doing the validation using before business rule. In the before business rule, I am actually checking whether the collar field value is filled in or not. If the collar field value is not filled in, I am actually stopping the database operation. Do you guys understand? Hello,
Yeah,
everyone. Saiteja, Nishant, Uday.
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Okay.
But so
So
we
now,
can, but so we can also write in this thing what we have done in the by the business rule. We can also do with the client scripting also by
by making
writing the
field
written
mandatory,
false. Yeah, sir.
by
False,
making
basically written false.
by by making field mandatory, so you can actually do that one. So without providing the collar, you won't be able to submit, right?
Yes.
So see, this is actually server side validation. So in the after submitting the form, so before the data gets stored into the database, you are actually checking whether the color field is actually filled in or not. If the color field is actually filled in, only then you will allow them to submit the form. Understand, Nishant?
Yeah.
Nishant.
Yes, understood, sir.
Okay, fine. Now, right. So let us say we had actually discussed one requirement the other day. So whenever you fill the collar here, this caller email, caller first name, last name is getting populated. How exactly this caller email, first name, last name getting populated, guys? How exactly the caller first name and last name email getting populated? You guys, you guys are not practicing Sims. Hello, hello, Uday, Nishant, Sai.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
So how exactly the first name, last name, email are getting populated? How exactly these see due because of on change client script these values are getting populated. Do you guys remember on change client script?
Mm.
So in the on change client script we have actually written glide ajax. Through the glide ajax we are actually getting the server side values to client side. We are actually placing these details. So I am going to inactivate that onload client script. Sorry, I am going to inactivate that on change client script, guys. So right click, configure, go to client scripts. Caller chain. See here, we have actually written glide ajax. From the glide ajax, we are actually getting the values from the server to client. So I am going to inactivate this one. So whatever we are actually achieving it, whatever we are actually achieving it using unchanged client script, right? The same thing we are going to achieve it using before business rule. So here, right, we have actually major issue form here, right? So I am going to let's refresh this one. So this is actually the major issue form. So I am just filling in the color here. I am just filling in the color here, and then I am actually selecting the affected color, rest of the details. So what exactly will happen is that, guys, whenever I submit this one, right, after the form submission, the caller value, the caller email, caller first name, last name should be populated and the details get stored into the database. So what am I doing is I am going to populate these values using before business rule. I am going to populate these values using before business rule. So what am I going to do is I am going to create another business rule here. Set caller values. Advanced here. Before, insert or update. So you have to fill the caller email, caller first name, caller last name, right? So you underscore caller underscore email, you underscore first name, you underscore last name. So here what am I going to do is current dot you underscore caller email is equal to, okay, so let it be current dot you underscore first name is equal to current dot you underscore last name is equal to. So guys, remember one thing here. So I have to provide the caller email in the caller email field. I have to provide caller first name in the first name field. I have to provide caller last name in the last name field. So here there is a concept called dot walking concept in ServiceNow platform. There is a concept called dot walking concept in ServiceNow platform, guys. You can always dot walk reference field. dot walking in the sense, so this is actually caller reference field, right? So if you click on this one, right, so you can dot walk these fields as well. You can dot walk these fields as well. So here in this user record, right, if there is any reference field, so let us say here in the caller field, so now we are actually on major issue form. On the major issue form, you have selected caller here. On this caller, if there is any reference field, so department is actually reference field, right? So you can dot walk this field as well. Okay. So here also you have actually another reference field. You can actually dot walk this one. So let us say if you want this caller department head, if you want this caller able tutor callers department head, able tutor department head. So what is able tutor department here? Able tutor department is actually product management. So product management department head is who? Rob Phillips. So remember guys, always you can always dot walk reference fields. So here what am I going to do is, in our script I am going to dot walk caller field. So current dot u underscore caller dot email. Okay. First name, last name. So now what exactly will happen is that, so whenever you submit this one, right? Whenever you submit this major issue record, immediately the before business rule will run. So using the before business rule, you are actually setting the caller email, first name, last name based on the caller. So I am going to submit this one. I'm going to submit this one. So using before business rule, I have actually populated, using before business rule, I have actually populated caller email, first name, last name, and then I have saved the details in the database. Do you guys understand what exactly I have done here?
Yes, sir.
Do you guys understand or not?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Based
Yeah.
on the caller, we found the caller. We wrote this script for the caller email, first
Yes.
name and last.
So remember, there is a concept called dot walking. You can always dot walk reference fields. So caller is actually reference field. So you are actually referencing current dot u underscore caller dot email, current dot u underscore caller dot first name,
First name, last name.
current dot u underscore caller dot last name. So likewise, you are actually dot walking the reference field and you are actually storing those values in this caller email, first name, last name. Okay.
And this everything is written before business rule, during the
Yeah.
before business rule,
So
right?
whatever that we have actually discussed so far, all are actually before business rules only. See all these things. First we had actually discussed. So we are actually setting the values through the before business rule is what we have actually discussed. After that, if the caller value is not filled in, we are actually stopping the data processing into the database using before business rule. After that, what exactly are we doing? We are actually setting the values of the callers like email, first name, last name in the form, and then we are actually storing the data in the database.
So just one for understanding. This active true false, when it will exactly get appear?
Active, true, false. This one.
Mm-hmm.
So this will not actually see if you open this one, right? If you don't want this business rule to be run, you will make this inactive.
Okay. Okay. Active means true means that business rule is running as of now, right?
Yeah, true means it will run.
Okay. On that same page, there was the third rule, right, which is false. So that rule is not running.
Which one? Yeah, that will not run. Third one will not run. Only which are active will only these things will run.
Okay. Okay. So we have disabled this last one. Yeah. Got
Yes.
That condition has to be met.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So guys, so once all these business rules before business rules are run, the details will get stored in the database. The details will get stored in the database. Once the details get stored in the database, right? Immediately the after business rules will run. Okay. So I have to explain one more thing as well here.
So just one more thing. The few we written the on change as well, right? Kind scripting.
Yeah.
So that same work can be done with this business rule as well, right? Before business rule,
Yes.
if you want. So both
Yeah.
options are there, right?
Yes. So here, right? Let me just go back. So here, right, we have actually order. So among the before business rules also, which one should run first? So order with less number will run first. So if you give here as 10 here, this will run first. So if you give here as 50, after this business rule will run. After this business rule, this will run. So which business rule will run first is what it will actually decide. Order will actually decide. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any number we can put, right?
Yeah. So it is best practice to keep gap between the numbers. Let us say 100, 200, 500, something like that. Because if you are actually creating another business rule, so then you can actually it is easy for you to add the order for that business rule as well. Let us say if you are actually giving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So suppose if you have actually created another business rule and then so that order should be different means you have to adjust all the business rules order. So it is best practice to keep the gap between the business rules order.
In between,
Uh,
we can add any business rule later, right?
Yes.
And with the correct sequence. Yeah.
Okay.
So, sir, business rule is a server side scripting, na?
Yes, business rule is actually a server side scripting. So right, tomorrow we will be discussing about after business rule, async business rule and display business rule. So after running the before business rules, the data will get stored in this database. Once the data gets stored in this database, this after business rule will run and async business rule will run. So when do we use after business rule when do we use async business rule and all, we will be discussing in tomorrow session. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay guys, I'm actually winding up the session for today.